bus seats are designed so that you cannot tell how dirty they really are.
During World War II, the Japanese built a human testing facility in China, which has come to be known as Unit 731. This was worse than a lot of concentration camps, but the people involved were never punished because the US granted them immunity and attempted to cover it up in exchange for access to their research. The Soviet Union attempted to try the people involved, and the US called it communist propaganda. The test subjects involved prisoners, but also the homeless, the mentally disabled, and random Chinese civilians kidnapped from nearby towns, including pregnant women and infants. Vivisections, cutting a person open with a T-shaped cut, were regularly performed, usually without anesthesia. Patients' limbs were randomly removed and improperly reattached to see what would happen, and internal organs were also randomly taken, all without anesthesia. Of course, prisoners were also injected with STDs, mainly syphilis, and then forced at gunpoint to rape other prisoners to spread the disease. Some of these prisoners included pregnant women, in which case they would either be vivisected live and have their fetuses removed, or the syphilis-riddled babies would be born and eventually killed. They also participated in biological warfare in several cities, usually by infecting fleas with paratyphoid and releasing them. They tested any and all sorts of weapons on the prisoners, notably grenades and chemical bombs. They also stuck people in pressure chambers until their eyeballs popped, spun people in centrifuges until they died, burned them alive, stuck people in gas chambers, injected them with random substances, and froze their limbs before breaking them off. Most of the experiments had no practical application, and were done purely out of sadism. The Japanese government didn't officially admit to this until 2003, and the US still actively denies it. So yeah, have fun thinking about this. For more horrific war crimes committed by the Japanese, consider reading about the rape of Nanking. Edit: when I got a notification that one of my comments was given the Wholesome Award, I gotta say I really didn't expect it to be this one.
There is a whale called 52 Blue that only sings at their frequency, meaning it can't communicate with other whales. It is nicknamed the loneliest whale on the planet.
Your skeleton is wet.
Your intestines will wriggle themselves back into the correct position. Doctors who do any type of intestinal surgery don't have to worry too much about how they put the intestines back in.
A certain type of anglerfish reproduce via the male burrowing into the side of the female, eventually fusing. The male life is lost in the process.
People who survive the Holocaust and get Alzheimer's often think they are back in the camps. So they escape one of humanity's greatest horrors only to die in it 50 years later.
If you are an identical twin, it is possible that you and your siblings' identities were swapped and your parents never caught it.
Sometimes you're the bad guy.
When you get a sunburn, it's actually your cells dying so they don't get tumorous.
The reason you're supposed to contact a doctor if you have an erection lasting longer than 4 hours is because prolonged priapism can lead to gangrene of the dick. Blood goes in, deoxygenates, but can't leave, so there's no way for fresh oxygenated blood to come in, causing the tissue to turn black and die. Don't worry, though, this can be treated by using a big syringe to suck the trapped blood out.
In the United States, roughly 1/3 of all food is thrown away each year.
Horses can't throw up, so if they eat something bad or get a bad gas bubble, they just lay down and die.
There are 8 unaccounted for American nukes and literally an unknown quantity of missing Soviet nukes that range all the way from warheads to suitcase bombs.
Valentine's Day is a holiday with one of the highest suicide rates.
People who commit suicide by jumping off a bridge. Those who don't die from the impact, drown because the impact breaks enough bones that prevents them from swimming.
The FBI estimates there are between 25 to 50 active serial killers in the US at any given time.
If you eat a polar bear liver, you will die. Humans can't handle that much vitamin A.
There is a mysterious illness called the sweating sickness that hit in multiple small epidemics in the early modern era. It was incredibly contagious and massively deadly, with about a 50% average death rate, but it could be higher. It began with an ominous sense of apprehension, followed by severe pains in the neck and giddiness. It then abruptly stopped and switched to heavy sweating, headaches and delirium. Finally, the person was hit with an extreme urge to sleep, and it was thought to be fatal if you fell to it. We know almost nothing about it, nothing about how it spread, how it was caused, only that if you got it you were either surviving or dead within 24 hours. There are horror stories of people leaving town on hunting trips and returning the same day to find almost everybody in the village dead, with only a few scattered survivors. The worst thing was, you did not gain immunity. You could live through the sweating sickness once, and then get it a few days later and die. Or live through it 2 or 3 times, and then get it and die. It was horrific. And we don't know why it disappeared and we don't know if it will ever return. Edit, I seem to be posting the wiki link a lot, so here it is, https://n.tam.wikipedia.org/wiki/sweating_sickness.
Live chat support agents can see what you type before you send it, so they can reply quicker.
The lemmings are not suicidal, and the documentary What Filmed It was actually showing lemmings getting thrown down a cliff because they needed the scene but couldn't make the animals do it.
In 2017, 10,000 people died awaiting their disability decision.
There is a genetic disease called FOP where your muscles and tissue turn to bone, often called human statue disease. Eventually people may have to decide whether they want to become frozen in a sitting or flat/standing position.
People with extreme scurvy start to have all of their old wounds open up. Everything with a scar is held together via an active process with collagen, and without vitamin C just sort of stop.
Urine was used for teeth whitening and bleaching of clothes in ancient Rome. Yes, they rinsed their mouth with human and animal urine.
Spider rain, you read that right, is a real and naturally occurring phenomenon.
You can smell your own lungs. Your brain just filters out the smell.
Some perfumes, or more specifically, musks you use, come from the anal and secretion glands of musk deers and civet cats.
Penguins rape the hell out of anything that looks vaguely penguin-like or doesn't move. In fact, it was so rampant that the 1910-13 Scott Antarctic expedition decided it was best not to bring it up so society wouldn't have to deal with the issue it would bring up. Scientists witnessed males having sex with other males and also with dead females, including several that had died the previous year. He also saw them sexually coerce females and chicks and occasionally kill them. The scientists blamed this astonishing depravity on hooligan males and wrote down his observations in Greek so that only uneducated gentlemen would understand the horrors / he had witnessed.
A blue-ringed octopus, found in the Pacific, is a tiny and cute little guy. But one painless bite gives enough venom to kill 25 male adults. Edit, changed sting to bite. Also note, as long as you are given medical attention within an hour of you receiving the bite, you'll be fine.
The search and rescue dogs on September 11th were getting so sad from finding only dead bodies. The human helpers buried themselves in the rubble so that the dogs could find them and be happy.
Cute, fuzzy little sea otters are known to rape baby seals to death.
In Australia there is a plant called the Gympie Gympie which is such a severe sting that horses who brush against it throw themselves off cliffs because they'd rather die than continue to experience the pain.
Migraines and strokes carry a lot of the same symptoms, so if you suffer regular migraines you may not notice you're actually dying one day.
During the Seoul Olympics 1988, a large amount of doves were released into the stadium. When the giant brazier was lit, many of the released doves were sitting in it, resulted in many doves being burned alive.
Bed bugs procreate by traumatic insemination. Males literally stab females with their genitals, so, just another reason to hate them then.
Climbing Mount Everest has a 6.5% mortality rate. What's more harrowing is that if you die, you will most likely be left there. There's currently over 200 dead bodies on Everest that are irretrievable, and now serve as markers for other climbers. Not a bad place to eternally rest, but upsetting for those left behind who can't give you a proper burial.
If a hamster gets too stressed, it will eat its kids.
Rabies is terrifying. You can get it and not even know it from bats, which live across the globe. It might hit you right away. It might be in 3 years. But it doesn't matter because once symptoms set in, you're already dead.
Male dolphins like to hunt fertile female in groups and hound them because they are unwilling. The females are often injured during this, some even die.
The number one cause of death among pregnant women is murder.
A man once had a tapeworm get cancer. That cancer metastasized, and the man died from tumors of tapeworm throughout his entire body.
It was once thought for birds, parrots, magpies, to learn to talk, you had to release their tongue. This was done by cutting their tongue completely or partly off. Of course, without any anesthesia or painkillers. The tongue release plays absolutely no role in the bird's ability to talk.
Monkeys use frogs as flashlights and the frogs die from it. Imagine death by choking on giant monkey dick.
According to the World Bank Group, the world produces about 2 billion tons of garbage every year.
There is a non-zero maximum threshold for the amount of cockroach that can be present in ground coffee because it is literally impossible to keep them out entirely.
The little girl who voiced Ducky in the first Land Before Time was murdered by her father before the movie came out. Her gravestone says yep yep yep.
Greifswald Nuclear Power Plant, 1976, the almost Chernobyl of East Germany. In short, due to a short circuit resulting in a fire, almost all coolant pumps failed. The NY Times says, Chernobyl-scale nuclear disaster was prevented only when a single water pump in the emergency cooling system was able to draw off pressurized water heated to high temperature by the decay heat left in the reactor's core, thus preventing a meltdown. This incident became public with reunification in 1989.
The youngest person to ever give birth to a baby was a 5-year-old little girl.
Himalayan blackberries can allegedly grow under your skin,